gotta
I gotta stretch here. Yeah. So that's what I want to know. And so y'all's next session. Let's just talk about that. Why Josh would show up late.
Like we need to do a time study.
Also, before I forget, there were two things I wanted to mention in that episode that I didn't get to mention. First, another listener, Tim Clements.
Tim,
he goes to Covenant Church. Just the nicest guy, great dad, and he just said, "Hey, love the podcast." So there you go, Tim.
You guys are growing.
Yes. And then Tim Sith, who also goes to my church. His wife Rachel leads worship. They just opened up Kung Fu Tea in Bossier City. They literally launched like a week ago. And so I haven't been yet. I've been trying to eat only protein, but I mean, they have, coffee drinks. They call them barbaristas.
Okay.
Like boba tea.
Where's it located again?
It is on Airline Drive next to that kind of complex across from Taco Bell on Airline Drive.
Okay, so there's four Taco Bells.
North Bossier. So we're going to look. I use food places as references for everywhere, okay? Mm-hmm. So you're going to pass the Taco Bell, and you're going to look at the Hart's Chicken Buffet, okay?
Oh, I gotcha.
Okay,
now I know what you're talking about.
Okay, there you go.
Good.
If I give you two restaurants as references points, you know where to go.
Kung Fu Tea.
Kung Fu Tea, yeah.
Got it.
Man, just like they're blowing up already. Good stuff.
Awesome.
So,
well, what a special guest we have today.
Look, Aaron Barker.
Straight out of...
Cincinnati.
That's right.
Cincinnati. Yeah.
Wow.
You
came all the way here.
Just for you.
So first impressions, you just hopped into Shreveport, Bossier. What do you?
Yeah.
What's hitting you? Like,
well, I went and parked on the side of the street.
Yeah.
And I had a lady.
Come on in.
I had a lady drive past and stopped and said, "You need to turn your car around. They're going to tow your car."
Yeah. Yeah,
Thank you
look,
so much for that.
we're still,
She's nice. Number one, identifying out of towner like a sore thumb, right? Super quick.
Yeah.
And also is very helpful.
Yeah.
Like I think probably where I'm from, we would have just thought that was hilarious and said, just see what happens.
What about the weather? What do you think about the weather?
Yeah, pretty warm.
Pretty warm.
Toasty.
It is.
This is
humid.
deep winter wear you got.
Deep,
on.
yeah.
Right.
It comes in long sleeve. Yeah. Hey.
Right.
Hey, Cincinnati's probably 70 degrees right now.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
Yeah, I'm sure.
This is what I would be wearing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, the last time, so Aaron came through last year around the same time.
Okay.
Where he makes his world tour, I guess, beginning of the summer. And he happened to come hang out at my house, and we got crawfish. And so I have on video Aaron's first time eating crawfish with my kids. Like, no, do it like this.
How many people the first time do the head?
Oh, like suck the head?
Suck the head.
Well, I mean, the ones that want
really
delicious,
the mean business,
delicious food and the full experience.
Well,
I would say most don't. Most are going to pull. Look,
that's what I was
we had crawfish a couple weeks ago, and when you have a group of people, somebody's going to show up with some rubber gloves, right? It's the glove
Really?
people. Oh yeah,
really.
You got the glove people.
Interesting.
You got the people now. They have all these tools trying to make peeling crawfish easy, like some pliers and stuff. It's like, hey, look. Yeah, no. Yeah.
I'm not even from Louisiana, and I'm like, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Well, you made me look like a hero because, I showed everybody how to peel it, and then I cracked and sucked the head. And even the guy from Mississippi was like, I don't even do that.
Yeah. I never have, to be fair.
So Aaron has taken that and brought it back to Cincinnati, and he just had his second annual boil for his wife's birthday. Yeah. There's actually, a company here, you can get it next day delivered on dry ice, live crawfish.
Wow.
And so, what's the name of that company?
Do I have the authorization to do that? I mean, is that a plug for...
what is the name of that company?
Louisiana Crawfish Company.
Louisiana Crawfish Company. I think they might be out of Natchitoches or something, but hey, we'll give them a shout out.
There you go.
But I will say, it's strange because some states you have to pull a permit.
Really?
Yeah, so you go try to order it on there.
To order
it, they'll say, oh no, you got to pull a permit with the Wildlife Fisheries Department and pay the money, then we can ship it there.
It may be because of my wife. I think she has all the permits for all wildlife and the whole.
There you go.
She preemptively.
She already had it. There you go. So Aaron Barker is a business coach. Is that what you would say? Sometimes a therapist.
Sometimes a life.
How do you describe yourself?
A sales and leadership coach.
Sales and leadership coach. There you go. So he, Aaron called me about a year and a half ago, and was referred by another broker in our network, a real estate broker. And, when he called and said, hey, would you, do you think you need some coaching or whatever he said, and I said, well, he might've said, is everything good or do you have some areas to grow? He's going to say no to that. But I was like, oh, I have some team members. I was just thinking they need what you're offering. And, so anyways, that led into, me signing up, and so we've been a year and a half in, and I introduced him to Josh.
Yes, he did.
Yep.
Yes, he did.
And so anyways, so good stuff.
I think my first exposure to you was in a truck ride to Dallas, where maybe you had forgotten about your meeting and you were calling to get crawfish tips or something like that.
Was that the Metallica trip?
It might have been.
Going to see Metallica?
Maybe one before that. But
Okay.
so that was my exposure. You were actually doing your first crawfish.
Yes.
Or first? Yeah. that
Yeah,
sounds
I
right.
was getting.
That sounds right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was double checking.
There you go.
Right.
Oh man,
Right.
I got made fun of for watching his videos over and over. I'm like, I don't want to get this wrong. I got to do it right.
That's right. That's right. So,
All right,
well,
let's talk
welcome.
about it.
Yeah,
yeah.
welcome.
Aaron,
As
great coach.
great coach. Now, for someone who is not familiar with working with a coach, how would you describe it to them? Right. So there's a business owner out there. They've never worked with a coach. They are unsure about what the relationship looks like. How do you roll that out?
Yeah. Well, first off, when you get to describing what it is that you do, you need to ask questions about who this person is, but you need to just start with learning. I always like to say, we work with people and helping them achieve their goals in life and business as well, and just having fun while doing it.
Yeah.
And our company, and I will get into a little bit of a background of our company, typically on an initial conversation, just so that they know we're part of a parent company that was founded in 1865, right, during the Civil War. So we're older than the light bulb. And
there you go.
Yeah, so they started off selling Bibles door to door. That is a program that's lasted all the way through to world wars, the Spanish flu, and right now COVID. And so it's the principles that have essentially been forged, really, that have been lasted through that we coach on. And so I always like to as quickly as I can, because I'm always going to answer the question, but I like to as quickly as I can just move into and ask about them.
Yeah.
And just so I can learn, and it's it gives an opportunity for us to have a conversation.
And they're like, hey, how much is this going to cost?
Yeah, real quick.
They're like, hey, whoa, let's talk about you, buddy.
What?
Wife, kids, yeah, okay. hey, how much? Yeah, that Aaron, I remember one coaching session with Aaron. We got to the end of it. Every other week, unless I am on vacation and forget, and you're calling me like, hey, what's up, bro?
Hey.
Like, on a roller coaster. Sorry. That happened recently. But I remember getting to the end of the coaching session, and I'm like, he did nothing but ask questions for a whole hour. You didn't tell me one thing. All you did was ask questions. And so I think here's where I think a big hang up on when we talk to other business owners and hearing them, they don't feel like they can be coached by someone who hasn't done what they're doing, And so that's a big misconception. And I've learned through this process, what you're talking about is a mentor. A mentor is someone who has been where you want to be, someone who has successfully had this business and has done, and someone you aspire to be. But just because someone was successful in a business doesn't mean they have time or the ability to coach you, the patience, right?
Yeah.
In fact, I would say most people that have been real successful in business don't have the skill set to really coach someone else, or the time, and they're probably retired and, going to foreign, beach communities and sipping on pina coladas,
Boats.
And so boats. But I think that's where the misconception is, because then I always go back to, you think of Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Federer, and it's like they always reference their coaches. I'm like, well, they're the best to ever do what they did.
Right.
So how could they have a coach if they're the best that would ever do it?
Yeah.
And really, to me,
Yeah.
my perception and how I say it is a coach is really helping you shine the light on areas that you can improve and grow. And that's really what it's been for me.
Yeah. And, I'll give this is something that comes to mind. So I was speaking with a guy on the phone who I get introduced to, and he's in my area in Cincinnati. And he said, I could sense the hesitancy. I could sense that he wanted to have an initial meeting, but I could sense a little hesitancy, and I just called it out. And I said, can I just ask you something? Are you hesitant because you don't want someone telling you what to do? And you think that's what coaching is? And he said, yes, nailed it.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, listen, I'm kind of gathering that, and that's totally cool. If you're up for it.
Don't think that way first.
Yeah. Try to do the little amount of telling as we.
Touch,
right?
Yeah.
And I said, if you're up for us having some time, I think you might come to a different conclusion. And if you don't, that's okay.
Yeah.
But I think you might, if
Sure.
you're up for that. So we did. This is what was interesting is he had some challenging situations take place. And he was really affected by his business really shrinking. There was outside circumstances that really came to his business shrinking more than in half. And as we dug into that happening, we realized that was the cause of his reluctancy to grow. It was the cause of some relational challenges because of just his ultimate fear that was driving him. And we couldn't really get to that point. You know how we always say, I am getting in my own way. It's hard to know how and where.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where you give a little bit of credence to the profession of a coach. And
And I think that, I think you're right. When I think back to where I was at a year and a half ago, I felt felt overwhelmed because there was a lot that I needed to do, but I was stuck in taking any action to do those things. And so it almost felt like I knew there was stuff to do, but I didn't know where to start. I felt overwhelmed, like there was so much to do.
Yeah.
Where do you start? And, people ask me, like, what does your coach tell you to do? How do they tell you what to do? And I'm like, it's crazy is he doesn't tell me anything to do. And not only that, but even when, I have some action items at the end of a session, the next session comes around, you're not even asking about those action items, right? Because your goal was get me to identify them, not to hold me accountable to do those. Right. I mean, there is some accountability, but the accountability is not because I'm paying someone to tell me what to do. It's because I'm really accountable to myself and to my businesses and to my employees. Right. That's my accountability to my family. And so I don't need someone to say, did you do what I told you to do? Right. What I need is someone to come along and say, hey, how are you feeling? I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is I was looking for a coach to give me tangibles, all right, well, hey, you need to start tracking this number, or you need to start doing this, you need to start doing this. Well, it wasn't that at all. It was like, how do you feel right now? Overwhelmed. All right, well, let's talk about why do you feel overwhelmed? Well, right? And so then that's really the work that needs to be done. And so to give away a little bit of your proprietary shapes and
we
images.
Believe in giving away information.
And, so,
for
and I might even talk about it on here, but the first shape and picture you drew for me was this glacier. Right? Or iceberg. What would you call it? I just went on the Titanic museum. It's pretty awesome, actually. So the iceberg. And we see the tip of an iceberg, right? And in fact, that's the thing. Well, this is just the tip of the iceberg, meaning there's a lot under the water that you don't see, right? And we tend to focus on the tip of the iceberg, which is results, actions and results, right? And that's how we're measured by. That's how people say, well, you're successful because you have this house, you have these things, right? And then that's usually how we coach or judge our employees is based off of, did you do these things? Did you get these results? Right. But the truth is that all of the tip of the iceberg, action and results, is all a reflection of what's happening below the water, which is your feelings,
Yep.
your thoughts and beliefs, right?
Josh,
there you go.
you
There you
nailed
go.
it.
There you go.
Impressive.
So yeah,
He's been paying attention. It's only been a year and a half.
It's only been a year and a half.
Right.
I got one thing down. Let's move on to the next thing, buddy.
That was
So-
your action item. I was
Yeah.
here to hold you
Yeah.
accountable
Yeah.
to that. Yeah.
So then what I quickly found is that our conversations were, well, how are you feeling? All right, well, you feel that way. What are your thoughts that are leading to that?
Yeah.
And then it's at the very bottom, what do you really believe about yourself, right? And so it's almost like, in spiritual terms, we call it gospeling ourselves, right? Is when we feel shame or that we're not worthy enough. It's saying, well, what does God say you are? Or
Yeah.
what's the truth?
Yeah.
What does the Bible say? And that's almost like where you have to go to
Yeah.
when your results
Yep.
suck because you're not taking action. Well,
Yep.
what is ultimately all the way to the bottom? What do you believe? What are you believing about yourself?
Yeah.
And is it true or not?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, this is an interesting phenomenon that takes place when you're having a conversation, because there is, and this is a little window and an insight into a coach's mind when we're doing this, is we know that there is a little bit of an understanding or a thought of like, am I going to be getting content? Are you going to be telling me
Yeah.
teaching, right?
Yeah.
And we feel this because we know that it is true that people move based on their own internal motivation in meaningful ways. And our purpose as a company is to help people achieve their goals in life.
Yeah.
It's not to tell people what to do. It's not to be for some reason the reason people succeed.
Yeah.
It's to be a partner and help people achieve their goals in life. And we truly know, even though it does cause a little bit of a challenge, because in the moment I'm even asking myself like, we're talking just about feelings,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But we do know that underlying is our thoughts, and that's what moves us.
Sure.
Right? And we all
Sure.
do that.
Well, and
based on our
we've
own.
talked about this a lot on our, how many episodes are we on? 20?
This might be 20, right?
This might be
19 or
number 20.
Yeah.
So we do talk a lot about that, just the mindset, right? And I tell, even when I meet with my leaders in my company, I'm like, the most important thing you can do for this company every single day is have a positive attitude. And that is 100% your decision.
Yep.
Right. And so
That's within your control.
yeah. And my kids say that too. I'm like, they come in bad. They're like, now let me tell you, I know I control my
Yeah.
attitude.
Wait, they say that to you?
Yeah. I know I can control it.
Right.
And my 15-year-old, we were somewhere the other day and they were talking about, focusing on what you can control. And he's like, Dad, that's what you tell me.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
the whirlwind, that's the easy thing to do, right? Is get caught up in all the things we have no control over, right? Tonight, the presidential debate, and people get so consumed with all these things, interest rates, whatever it is, and it's like you have no control over any of that.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
can you focus on today that you can actually
Right.
control?
Yeah, one of the things, and I think we've talked about this, Josh, when it comes to our outside influences, like the things that we have no control over, they do tend to cause anxiety, and we just get an overwhelmed feeling, right? And when I always use the analogy of, or the word picture of a bullseye. We've talked about this, right? Where on the outer edge of the bullseye is things that you have to accept. Right, and then in the the middle circle is influence, and at the very center is stuff that you can directly control. And we always say you can control your activity, your schedule, and then what's the third one?
Activity, schedule, and actions. Activity, schedule, and attitude. Sorry, there we go.
He's doing great.
Yes, attitude. Got it on the quiz. Yeah.
You've graduated.
I would just love to compare our sessions.
I think I had a very special session with him that he told me that was a 1 of 1.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was Josh, and I think in reflection, this was a valuable use of time for you.
Sure, absolutely.
Asking me all kinds of questions about my experience with
Yeah.
other coaches or with other clients and
Yeah.
what I see.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
actually, because I looked at your sheet where you do you have your executive coaching tab, and it had the 4. You asked me what are the things that you've seen
Yeah.
that take people from where they are to where they want to be.
And listen, not to cut you off, but I was so curious as someone who observes, a lot of people who are in small business or leaders or in sales. You've observed so many, and you've gotten to document, really mentally tally their success trajectories. And so I'm curious, ultimately, like, give me the meta narrative of what's going on between the folks that seem to be kind of going up and to the right versus folks who maybe are not, versus folks who are maybe going backwards. What do you see? What's the distillation? Because, I mean, there's so many acronyms, there's just too many acronyms. What's the distillation of what makes it work for most of these people? And I don't have the answer right in front of me, but do you remember what you basically broke it down to say? This is what the most successful people that I see all more or less share in common.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think we did start with the who, right? We started with the people that are open minded, that have a humility and an ability to be transparent, and ultimately understand the value of identifying a vision. Right, a vision for where you're headed in life. And the people that I find have a harder time, there is something that within them just doesn't kind of let them go there, doesn't let them have a vision or picture that. And there's oftentimes just a fight within themselves, but once you do have the ability to get something exciting for yourself, then it's what along the way are goals along the way. But it was interesting, and I think this is what we put in one of those 4, because I remember it was 4 things, is just your ability to have a meaningful marker that's relevant, that has a relevancy to that vision of where you're headed. And it's once you have seen enough people and see enough of who people are, that's really where you have to start, because people aren't going to get what they want to get out of it if they aren't willing to participate in that partnership to begin with. And that is the ability to have that humility and transparency and have the light shined on some blind spots, and then ultimately be willing to take action. I think towards the end of that 4, it might have been on 3rd or 4th, was really just it was unashamedly relentless pursuit.
Yeah.
What is the hurdle? And this is for all of us, right? And I think I have my own ideas, but what is that roadblock that keeps someone from being humble, or that humility that's needed to say, hey, I need help, or to even be honest with somebody else about areas they might need help?
You asking me?
Yeah, both. I mean, what do you think it is? What is that, right? Because I can get to that place in sometimes too, and I think of like 10 years ago, I probably was that person.
How real do you want
Let's get
your
real.
guests to get?
Let's go.
I mean, I think it's my personal take on it would be something around the idea of the ego in people. This idea of a sense of their own sense of agency when their life, or their inability to relinquish that sense of control. And maybe that's a fear, maybe that's doubt, or maybe that's a lack of trust. Ultimately, that's where I would go, but I'm curious.
And then I would even go further, like, what causes that? Like, there's a reason why someone has an inability to really trust somebody, right? And I know it's hard to say it from a 30,000 foot view because every situation is different. But even more than that, right? Because the lack of trust, the ego, those are still symptoms of a deeper problem.
Yeah.
And so what is that?
Well, look, I can only go with personal experience if you... Yeah. So this happened for me personally back...
Let's talk about Josh.
Okay.
Josh.
No, it's cool.
Josh. What's Josh's biggest weakness? Go ahead and tell me.
Okay. Okay.
So,
because I was going to put the spotlight on myself.
No, let's do it. Yeah, personally, and I know you've shared your story with me before. Personally, when you were in that place, what was holding you there?
Yeah. Well, here's something I'm leaning into more and more in my life, is that the truth of my life and story, while it really does make me uncomfortable to talk about, and I do not love revisiting this part of my life, it's true.
Yeah.
So that's about as simple as it has to be. In 2020, I had a lot of just challenges with my wife. We were fighting a lot.
Yeah.
And we had a big blowout fight.
Pandemic probably didn't help.
Did not help. And
hey, y'all fight, stay in the house together 24/7.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and through that, we had sought some help. And we had a really heated one, and she said to me, "You have no accountability around your thoughts." And that came out after me saying things over and over that to her were untrue and to me were deeply true. And through the years of me stuffing my feelings down and not talking about things, I even remember saying, "You don't want to know how I feel. You really don't want to know what I'm thinking."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think we've said that to ourselves.
Yeah.
We've said that maybe even out loud, if you're as bold as I was and am still, is when we had gone through that with counseling, and, you know, I realized that I was just doing a lot of blaming. I had a big ego. Someone said to me once, ego will cause us to be very judgmental, and that separates us. And so my experience personally is that just caused a rift and an ongoing drifting and separation from my wife, from the people closest to us. It causes us to drift. And the thing that always I have realized brings us back to that is just truth, is just leaning into the truth. You know, the really scary thing for me was to tell her that there were things I just was unhappy with, and I just wasn't saying them out loud. And the minute I did, the response was fine.
Yeah. But you were blaming her
absolutely
for that, even though she had no clue about it. Right. Yes.
No clue. Yeah.
That happens all the time.
Oh.
And look, your story's similar to, I mean, a lot of similarities, and I've said a lot of the same things you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. There, I think I recommended this book to you a couple of weeks ago, but that book, Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, have you read that or heard of that? But it's this concept, this pastor wrote it, and it's a great book, but he's pretty much saying, like, we can't grow spiritually until we are emotionally healthy. And so he's like, there's a lot of 20-year-old Christians, 30-year-old Christians that have had 30 first-year experiences of being a believer because they don't have the emotional capacity to really process and grow. And I think that's a lot with business too.
Yeah.
Is that it's this emotionally healthy business leadership, right? Is that we really can't lead our businesses until we're emotionally healthy in a place. Yeah. And so maybe we should contact that guy and write a book about it, or just hijack his name.
Totally.
There you go.
Well, the thing, you know, that, and you guys have a nice clip there of a gentle way for me to talk about what I went through, and I can give you the details here too if you want the deeper version of it. When we had that first argument, she went in my drawer to write me a note, and then she found vodka in my drawer, and she put it out on the table, on the desk. And we sat there staring at it, and she said, "What is that?" And I said, "It's my coping mechanism." And at that point, I just went into all the things that I hated and sucked. That's when the counseling and started, and I had a spiritual counselor and a personal counselor that I met with. It was a lot of that for about 6 months, and this was in September 2020. And then in June of 2021, I had what's called a thunderclap headache, where a blood vessel burst in my brain, and I was in the ICU for 9 days. And they did a cerebral angiogram the day after, which would have been now the 16th of June in 2021. And the neurosurgeon looked at me and said, "What was going on when this thunderclap headache happened?" And I said, "I was watching basketball. I was just laying down." And he said, very next question was, "Were you angry?" And I said, furious.
Was your team losing?
That's what he said. He goes, "Are you really into basketball?" And I said,
Playoffs.
It was the playoffs. But I didn't really at that point even remember who was playing. I obviously like basketball, but no.
Yeah.
I was furious. There was a conversation my wife was having with someone downstairs that I could hear, and it was furious.
Yeah.
I was so mad. And then my blood vessel burst. I was in the ICU for 9 days. You know, the reality of having someone say to you, your anger almost killed you.
Yeah.
Really causes you to do some things. And that's when I realized that I was just stuffing things down. So I don't know what causes people, but I know that I wasn't open to hearing things. I didn't trust where it came from. I didn't trust that it would end up in my overall well-being. It was me. I was gonna take the wheel.
So the question I posed earlier is, what's the underlying that leads to these symptoms? For you, it was anger.
For me, it was anger that led to just fear. There was definitely fear in there that I wasn't willing to admit because I was too prideful and angry.
Yeah. Interesting. Have y'all seen the new what's the new movie? The one about emotions?
I cried during
Inside
Out.
It's great. Yeah, Inside Out. My wife said it's great, and she said she cried 5 times.
You're 4 minutes in. So this is the thing. I
haven't seen it yet.
I've started getting really obviously aware of my own emotions because it really is the solution to me not dying.
Yes.
If you want to do like uncontrollable results and controllable stuff, my controllable activity, income producing activities, talk about your feelings.
Don't die.
Don't die. Which is funny because I have a picture of the board on the hospital with it has a thing that says goals, and I got out of my bed and wrote up there, not dying.
It's a pretty good goal.
Well, you know, it is interesting though, because when I think of me, when I'm overindulging, not eating properly, avoiding going to the gym, there is a direct correlation to what my feelings are at the time, right? And so, I mean, it really is a holistic thing, right, that starts internally.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it, Josh. By the way, when you said it's there's pride, there's fear. Ultimately, you know, when I am, because I've gotten really attentive to the who, because that's where it starts. If any transformation is going to take place in a partnership, if the who doesn't match, then you're not getting anywhere, right? And so understanding and seeing separation, pride, those things that put basically you in charge, like that, you know, are really quick indicators that there's not a lot of transparency or humility, not a ton of self-awareness, not a ton of hunger to grow in the right way, not a lot of gentleness probably, or just ability to be open.
Yeah.
And that just leads with not a ton of growth. Yeah.
Cool.
So interesting.
Yeah. What do y'all talk about during coaching?
Oh yeah, this is something he just can't.
Just give him my weakness. Just give it to him.
Do you want me to just forward him all the recordings?
Here's what I would say. Here's what I do appreciate, knowing the little bit I do know about what Josh does with his coaching, what I do with my coaching, is that you, Aaron, are able to pivot based off of characteristics, kind of scope of what the job is, you know, skill sets, right? I mean, because we've established early on between us, like I'm not getting on there every week and putting in my stuff.
By the way, we do hold people accountable to their action items.
Yes. But I'm like,
from a general sense, but you and I have a special relationship.
Yes. But I will say that I do appreciate that, is that it's not a, you know, because I think that is a misconception. I do see coaches that are like part of a franchise or whatever, and they're like, all right, well, we're going to go through these 40 modules, right? And it's just kind of very planned out, and it's kind of like they're forcing you into this. And so,
yeah, I think part of understanding this for me is slowly wrapping my head around the nonlinear nature of this. Just like what you said, is that you would expect it to be sort of moving in one direction. Ultimately, we come into conversations and I I just feel like we're starting over almost every time. You know, it's like, well, here's just something for today.
Yeah.
And you don't feel like it's iterative. You don't feel like it's something that's growing or mounting in a direction, but ultimately it is, because I don't know, you know, I mean, I think there's, you talked about the variance in people and how they think and process. For you is probably very different than the way that I process things, or the way that I struggle to see certain things. You know, for me, I would say ultimately it's always clarity. It's just, it's, you know, I'm so attracted to so many things, and I'm so open. You know, my wife is going to roll her eyes, but I have a high.
She doesn't listen.
Well, I have a high, like, trait level openness.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm very open to ideas. I will listen to whatever you say. It's the craziest thing in the world. I'll listen to you.
Yeah.
You know, and I may go, you know what? He's on to something there.
Right.
So ultimately, having this part of your personality, I'm very open to things, and things can be very compelling and persuasive.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think,
it's funny you talk about your dad with all of his ideas.
But
But Josh, you have ideas too. You're like, hey, I've been thinking, hey, we got this extra piece of land.
That's right. And we're always looking.
Sure.
And the reality of it is that, you know, again, for the trajectory of our business, where I've been planted in this life, in this world with my responsibilities, finding the clarity of what I need to be really marching towards and what I really need to let go is as attractive as it would be to have, you know, let's build apartments, or let's develop land, or let's go over here, or let's do this, let's have a bowling alley, or whatever. I think clarity has been a big challenge for me. And then the underlying belief of, now that I see that this is the clarity piece, do I believe that I'm worthy of? Do I believe, because as you're talking earlier, I'm like, well, what if I'm just not good enough? I can't play in the NBA, right? So what if I'm just not, like, I can believe that I'm good enough, but what if I'm just not good enough, right? So I think it's our first conversation was, you said, well, how much more efficient could you be, or effective, or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know, 2%, 500%.
Right.
You know, I could be like, you know, who knows how far I could go. And then the reality of it is that, you know, it's probably somewhere in between. Yeah. But so that's, if you're curious about a lot of our conversations, that's what I feel like we end up touching on.
Well, and I think that's true for everybody too. I mean, who is really going to, if you say, are you reaching your full potential, or do you think you could improve? I mean, who's going to say, you know, oh no, I'm good, right?
That's plenty.
Probably.
I'm just here to tell you.
I need names. But and I think that's really, and that might be, you know, one of my questions for you was, or I wanted to ask is, like, what are you listening for when you're talking to someone to know, hey, we have a good thing, like there's opportunity here for me to help, because you don't want to take on a client that's
I won't.
Not and so it has to be a good fit for both, right?
It's
so what
not
are you listening for?
All right. So this is, and I'll use our conversations a little bit, if you're cool with that, right, Josh?
Book.
You're open, right?
Yes.
You're,
Book. Yes.
Well, you said I have a vision of becoming the business owner that's worthy of the size of the business that I'm building. Am I talking loud enough?
Yeah, you're good.
I get in these low and slow.
Yeah,
we can adjust it. You had to overtalk the birds.
Yeah.
We got birds out here. Our family of birds.
And my wife, it drives her nuts when I talk low and slow.
Yeah.
But it's meaningful to me, and that's why I'm talking low and slow, because that's one thing I'm listening for, because it mattered to you, and there was something in there. I don't know what the emotion, but you felt, you meant it. That so you know how you said just now, the it's hard to see a linear path. Yeah. I don't have the linear path for your life.
It would be great if you did.
Right. Now, if you want me to give you one, I can give you Aaron's linear path.
Yeah.
But you do have a path. I don't think it's probably very linear. It's got a lot of, it's different. But you have a vision of becoming the business owner that's worthy. So there's words in there like worthy. And that's meaningful. And so whenever I'm listening for that, I don't know if you remember, I think I paused you and I said, why is that meaningful? Because that is actually, when you pick that, it actually allows the path to get there to be visible, which gives you the answer to how much more effective and efficient? What's the percentage? Because if you're able to see where you're headed and what path stop points along the way and what's going to take, that's what allows you to be aware of your own gap in between who you are now and who you are becoming.
Okay. Leighton, did you get that?
Yes, I got it.
Okay. What did
That's
he
what we
just
talk
Taking
about.
notes.
What did he just
Taking
say?
notes.
He's
It's the
texting.
gap. It's the gap.
He's texting.
No, we're running late. I had to cancel a meeting or push a meeting
I
back.
gotcha.
So
I gotcha.
Now I know what happens when you text me and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, but I do feel that there is a gap, and that's kind of the in between, right? And I always say, like, there's just gray areas in everywhere that we're at, and we would love for everything to be black and white.
Yeah.
Right. And we'd love to have this, and it'd be awesome if we went to college and they were like, here's the clear path, and it is far from it.
And so when you ask what are you listening and looking for, and how do you know who is that person, it's the people that can see their own vision.
The client, so to speak,
Yeah.
who can see their own vision.
Yep.
Yeah, I got you.
Anything, and I'll take anything, quite frankly. Whenever I'm talking about, like, what are you excited about? What's up next for you? Like, I'll ask that all the time because that's my way.
Well, look, dig into that. Seeing your own vision is like you're saying where I want to be.
So there's a be, a do, and a have. And we'll take anything, right? So even if it's a have,
Gotcha.
like I want to have this in my life, or I want to be doing this.
Yeah.
The ultimate thing, and you actually gave a be. And that's one of the indicators to me that Josh was very open and self-aware.
Gotcha.
So I have a list of 8 characteristics.
Oh, I know you've showed it to me before, and I'm like, this dude's just analyzing me the whole time. You haven't seen the
8 characteristics.
So when he hears a certain word, he's putting us in a little box,
It's
He's
a
like-
bigger
he's like-
box. It's a generally decent-sized box. Okay.
He's like, this is what I heard.
Am I scoring higher than Leighton? Please tell me I am. Please tell me I am. I need this.
Hang on, I'm trying to picture the box. You moved up. When Leighton missed his last call, you moved up 3 notches.
Well, Josh was late today.
You helped me with crawfish, which is a couple notches. I've got a value chart for each notch and how much. No, I don't.
But it's funny is I 2 things. One, I remember our first session. You didn't ask, what do I want to do? You didn't ask me about business goals. Your question for me was, who do I want to become? Mm-hmm. And that stood out to me. Mm-hmm. It's like, let's 50-year-old you. Yeah. Who are you? What characteristics do you have? What are you doing?
Do you remember texting me? They were all laid out on a table, and you texted me this wide shot of different personality things, and you had written out some goals for your businesses. Do you remember texting me that?
Yeah, vaguely.
No,
I don't remember.
Just say no.
It sounds like me.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I got that, that was an indicator to me that I have somebody who's hungry.
Okay.
Because you didn't know me very well, and you were willing to do something, to take an action toward what could be your own growth. Maybe it could, maybe it wouldn't. We actually didn't get going in coaching at that point yet. Yeah. But we had just had a 20-minute conversation, and then we scheduled that one time. And on that time, we were going to decide if we were going to do that or not. Yeah. And you, in the middle of that, texted me all this, and I remember thinking, I am going to, because what I'm trying to do is I'll start with the have if I have to, and then I'll go, but if I can start with the be, and I just remember thinking, I could start there. With the you too, I did the same thing. Mm-hmm.
Start with the B.
Another
thing, now, so that was an even.
Another thing that was great has been great for working with you is you provided awareness and tools mainly for the below the iceberg stuff, thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that I immediately, not even purposefully, started spreading that to the people around me.
Yep.
Right. And so it was kind of almost like a contagious, when I was learning these things and this terminology and this awareness of my feelings, and I can only control my attitude. Right. It gave me, not even just work, but at home,
Yeah.
right, with my kids.
Yep.
But it's just this idea. So that has been a very valuable thing that's not really in the scope of what you're doing, but it's kind of like a secondary benefit for being in coaching. It gave me a lot of good stuff to spread through my businesses.
Oh,
Yep.
there's so many times now, just to tag on to
Yeah.
that, where when I see somebody maybe in the organization and I see a result that's maybe not ideal,
It's a good way of putting it.
previously my instinct would be to just automatically say, this is not the right person. This is not the right person. And this is our problem. Our problem is this person.
Yep.
And that's true in a sense, but really, ultimately now, I will look at that same situation and I will go, I wonder what this person believes about themselves. I wonder what they are, these actions are coming from this belief.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I could actually try to work on that. Maybe that would affect the result in a different way than me coming to you and saying, Leighton, you just suck at this, man. Why are you so bad at this?
Yeah.
Be better.
Well, and I think that's it, right? And I had this conversation yesterday because we were talking about leading this team or this group of people, and my team leader's solution was, we got to get rid of this other person because when they come in, it's putting these people in a bad mood, right? I'm like, well, no, they're choosing to be in a bad mood. Right, that's the focus.
It's a choice.
Now we can talk about this person too and help him, but really, the work is helping them keep a positive attitude no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's this different shift, and I can see light bulbs going off. It's like, oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, and that's an and mentality, a two things can be true mentality.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you think about the things you can control, the activity, your schedule, and your attitude. Oftentimes people stop short at the attitude and just say good or bad attitude. Well, the attitude is actually that mentality is an attitude as well. That's a mentality that says, hey, hold on, that can be true, but this is also true. And it allows you to think in a different way. So that's a thought construct.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, your ability to take action, and you as well, like when you executive coaching tab and all the things you're implementing.
I need to see this.
Yeah, I know that might put him a couple notches. It does help me because we as coaches, we truly want to know you're going to get what you came for out of coaching. Like that matters a lot to us. I also take it very seriously that you have a trust in me and in us and in the system. Like in Southwestern Consulting's been around so long. When you say, oh, we're just asking a lot of questions. I know that we have 169 years of content.
Oh yeah.
Right. So if you
never gonna run out.
No. So it's like, I don't need to worry about teaching. Whenever you have a question, you'll ask. And whenever you do ask, I know you're ready and you're going to make
and I don't want to come across saying there's nothing practical. I mean, there is. So when I say, hey, well, you hired wrong people. Hey, I'm shooting you this thing. These are great questions to ask when you're hiring people.
There you go.
Hey, our team meetings aren't effective. Hey, here's a guideline of what we use.
Yep.
Right. And so there is, I mean, especially early on, I was leaving with something tangible every time.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm sure that's a strategy on your part too.
Well, and someone said one time they wanted to recruit me, and I said, you're not going to get me.
Yeah.
Not that you're not going to get me. It's just, even if you did, that's not me.
Yeah,
this is Southwestern.
Gotcha.
This is who we are.
That's awesome. Well, we have to wrap up because Josh was late, and we don't want to pay overtime for the studio we're in. Right. Man. One, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
I mean, you're actually going to be here for a couple of days. We're about to go to one of my businesses, and you're going to pour into them and energize them, and so that means a lot.
Yeah.
That you would do that. I'm just looking forward to crushing goals. The goal crusher.
Goals in life and business.
Yes, I did that one time. I signed in on my Zoom. The goal crusher.
Goal crusher. Yeah.